All right, so imagine this. You've reached a point where like market swings and economic craziness, they just don't faze you.
Like you're just solid.
Yeah. Totally unshakable, right?
Yeah.
That's the feeling, that's the state of mind that we're going to be diving into today.
Diving deep right into this idea.
Exact.
And the book that's going to be our guide for this deep dive is Tony Robbins' Unshakeable, Your Financial Freedom Playbook.
Ooh, a playbook.
A playbook, right. And this isn't, just your typical, like, dry, boring financial advice.
Right, been there, done that.
This is, it's like distilled wisdom, right, from the giants of finance. I think John C. Bogle, the Vanguard guy, Ray Dalio, Carl Icahn, and all these guys, they actually praised Robbins for his ability to take, like, super complex ideas and make them understandable.
Yeah, because sometimes finance can feel like you're learning a whole new language.
Totally.
And who wants to do that? We want to make sure that this deep dive is perfect for you, our listener. You want to learn, right? You want a solid understanding, but without all the, like, overwhelming details.
Right. Cut to the chase.
So our mission today is to pull out those golden nuggets from Unshakeable, break them down, make them real, like relatable to your life. So think of this as your express lane to financial security. We're going to hit those core sections of the book. The rules, the actual plays, and that all-important mindset you need. And you'll notice some key themes popping up. We're talking taking charge, minimizing those pesky fees and taxes, and then the whole compounding thing, which is mind-blowing when you think about it.
Huge.
And of course, that long game. All right, let's jump right in. Chapter 1.
Chapter 1 sets the stage.
Okay.
What does it really mean to be unshakable when it comes to your money? And it's not about, like, being immune to those market ups and downs.
Right, that's part of the game.
Those are going to happen. It's how you bounce back. It's about, not letting fear call the shots.
Yeah, it's about being that steady captain steering the ship, even in choppy waters, right?
Yes, exactly. And Robbins, he uses a great analogy of being a leader. Someone who, even when things get rough, they take charge. And what's so interesting about this first chapter is that it connects this idea to what's happening in the world right now. Like right now, economically speaking, think about this. We've seen these negative interest rates.
Negative interest rates.
Negative in like big, huge global economies. Switzerland, Sweden, Germany, Denmark, Japan. This is practically unheard of in 5,000 years of banking.
Right, wild.
And even Alan Greenspan, right, Mr. Federal Reserve himself, he was like, I don't even get this.
Really?
He admitted to Robbins that he was like, this is confusing.
So if he's confused,
right,
what hope do the rest of us have?
Right. So it really drives home the point that, like, trying to predict the future, it's a waste of energy.
You're not going to get it right.
You're not going to get it right. So instead of, playing Nostradamus, focus on what you can actually control.
Okay. What can we control?
All right. So you can control, how much you save, right? That's your savings rate.
Makes sense.
You can control how much you pay in, fees when you're investing. Keep those costs down. Asset allocation. Now, this is how you spread your money around, right?
Diversify.
Exactly. Different buckets, different investments. And I think this is the most important. You can control your own behavior.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Especially when the market's doing like a roller coaster thing. But that's where the knowledge comes in.
Okay, I'm listening.
Robbins, he really emphasizes that, to win this game, you got to understand the rules. Who are the players? What do they want? How does it all work, right?
The behind-the-scenes stuff, the mechanics.
The mechanics. And that's how you make smart decisions, informed decisions. And those decisions, that's what builds your financial power in the long run.
So it's like learning the playbook before you even step onto the field.
Exactly. So chapter 1, it's about setting you up, giving you that foundation so you can take control.
Okay, chapter 1, foundations. Chapter 2, we're moving on. Financial freedom, the 7 freedom facts.
Ooh, I like this.
7, we can handle that. What's the first one?
The first one is so good. You don't have to be a genius.
Music to my ears.
Right. And they tell this story about this guy, Ron. Ron had this index card strategy. He managed his money, really well.
Okay.
By keeping it simple.
Yeah.
Right? Like index card simple.
Yeah.
And the main point on that index card, invest in index funds.
Index funds, gotta love them. And this is something that John C. Bogle, the founder of Vanguard, he was a huge advocate for this.
Huge advocate, right?
Yeah.
He started the first index mutual fund way back in 1975.
Wow.
And for decades, he was like, this is the way to go. And it's interesting Because back then, he was kind of like the lone voice, right?
Yeah.
Now, everybody's talking about index funds.
Everyone's on the bandwagon.
Everyone's on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
And there's a reason, right? It's like beautifully simple.
Okay. Break it down for us. Why are index funds so great?
All right. So first of all, they're cheap. You're not paying some fancy fund manager a ton of money to try and like beat the market, which, by the way, is really hard to do consistently. And then the trading costs are low because index funds, they just buy and hold.
They're not like constantly buying and selling and generating fees.
Exactly. They track an index like the S&P 500. You know what that is?
Oh, yeah. Like the 500 biggest companies in the U.S.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Bogle, he said it best. You can't control the market's return, but you can control your expenses.
Smart. So for our listeners out there, freedom fact number 1, keep it simple, keep it low cost.
Index funds all the way.
All right. Freedom fact number 2, you can start with a little. I love this one because it really emphasizes that you don't need a ton of money to get started.
It's not about being rich to start. It's about starting to be rich.
Ooh, I like that. So the book gives this example of Joe and Bob.
Classic Joe and Bob.
Right. They both invest $300 every month. Joe starts at 19, does this for 8 years, then stops. Total invested, $28,800. Bob, he starts later at 27, but he keeps going till he's 65. Total invested, $140,400.
Whoa, big difference.
Big difference, right. But here's the kicker. At retirement, Joe's got almost $2 million.
No way.
Bob, $1.6 million.
But he invested way more.
Way more, right. It's the time, it's that compounding effect. And the book even says if Joe had kept going till 65, like Bob, $3.45 million.
That's the magic.
That's the magic of starting early, letting that money work for you. So, listener, takeaway number 2. Start now, even if it's a small amount.
Time is on your side.
Exactly. Freedom fact number 3, this one tackles a big myth. Nobody can predict consistently whether the market will rise or fall.
The crystal ball myth. And, you know, the media, a lot of the financial industry, they love to make you think that there's like some secret sauce.
Yeah, if you just find the right guru.
Right, the right guru, the right system.
The right indicator.
The right, whatever. That you can time the market perfectly.
Buy low, sell high, every time.
Every time. But the truth is, even the pros, they get it wrong. All the time.
All the time. Think about those year-end predictions.
Right.
For the market, how often are they actually right?
It's like throwing darts blindfolded.
Pretty much. So, freedom fact number 3, trying to time the market. Don't even try. Which brings us to freedom fact number 4, corrections are not a sign of the end.
Corrections happen.
Yeah, they do. And they can be scary, especially if you're not prepared for them. But the book's got a really important point here. Don't panic.
Don't panic sell.
Don't panic sell. Because market corrections, when the market drops 10% or more, they happen. It's normal.
Part of the cycle, yeah. Historically, it's like every 3 to 5 years.
So it's going to happen. And the worst thing you can do is freak out and sell everything because then you miss out on the rebound.
Exactly. And remember what Warren Buffett said, right? It's a terrible mistake to bet against America.
Wise words. So for you listening, when those corrections hit, remember, it's not the end of the world.
Stay calm. Stay the course.
Stay the course.
Yeah.
Now, freedom fact number 5, this one's a little heavier. Historically, bear markets have happened every 3 to 5 years.
Okay. Bear markets.
Yeah. So we talked about corrections. Those are like the little dips, right?
Little dips.
Bear markets, those are the big drops. We're talking 20% or more.
Ouch.
And on average, they happen every 3 to 5 years. And the book's honest. It says, yeah, even for experienced investors, bear markets are rough.
They're stressful.
They're stressful. Even Jack Bogle said that. But the book gives this great example of Peter Mellick's firm, Creative Planning.
Okay, what do they do?
They basically became like a lighthouse for their clients during that big crash in 2008, 2009. They kept everyone calm, reminded them of the plan, and it worked. They actually grew their business during that time.
Wow, that's impressive.
Right. So the lesson here for our listeners is that bear markets are a part of the game too. But if you're prepared, if you have a plan and you have the right mindset, you can weather the storm. Actually, you can even come out stronger on the other side.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
And that leads perfectly into freedom fact number 6. Bear markets become bull markets and pessimism becomes optimism.
Ooh, I like this one. It's about that cycle.
The cycle. Things go down, things go up. Remember back in 2008?
Oh, yeah.
It felt like the whole world was going to like fall apart.
Definitely.
But then recovery. Markets went on to hit new highs. And then there's Japan.
Japan, what happened there?
So their market, the Nikkei, right, it had this huge bubble in the 80s, and then boom, it crashed. And it stayed down for like a really long time.
So a cautionary tale.
Yeah, a cautionary tale about what can happen. But even the Nikkei, it's making a comeback now.
Yeah.
So the point is, short-term doom and gloom, it doesn't last. The market always bounces back eventually. And, guys like John Templeton and Warren Buffett, they made fortunes by investing when everyone else was freaking out.
What everyone else was selling.
Exactly. They saw those downturns as, like, buying opportunities.
That's a powerful way to look at it.
It is, right. So instead of fearing the bear market, think of it as a potential chance to, like, scoop up some bargains.
Okay, I'm liking this mindset shift. Now, freedom fact number 7, this feels like the big takeaway. The greatest danger is being out of the market.
This ties it all together. Because if you're on the sidelines trying to time those perfect moments,
yeah,
you're going to miss out on the best days. And those best days, they often happen really close to the worst days.
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy, right? So if you're constantly jumping in and out of the market, you're probably missing those big gains.
The ones that really make a difference.
Exactly. And Bogle, he had the perfect advice for this. Don't do something, just stand there.
I love that. So you're saying just stay invested.
Stay invested for the long haul. There's even a Schwab study that showed that even if you invested at like the worst possible time each year, you'd still come out ahead in the long run.
Wow, that's really reassuring.
It is, right? So think of it this way. Financial winter, it always turns to spring.
I like that analogy. Okay, so Chapter 2 gave us those fundamental truths about the market, the importance of long-term thinking. Chapter 3 gets a little bit, I don't know.
A little spicy.
Spicy, yeah. The real cost of ownership, the wolves of Wall Street.
Ooh, wolves. So this chapter, it dives right into like where most people start investing.
Okay.
Mutual funds. And mutual funds, they sound great, right? Diversification, spread your money around. But the thing is, there are so many mutual funds out there.
Oh, yeah.
That it's like more funds than stocks.
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy. And this chapter, it basically says that Wall Street, their priority isn't always you, the investor.
Ooh, shots fired.
Shots fired. They're a business, right? They want to make money.
Well, yeah, but isn't that aligned with our interests?
You'd think so, right? But the book quotes David Swensen, the guy who runs Yale's endowment. He's like a legend. And he says that the mutual fund industry often does a bad job of actually serving his clients.
Okay, that's a pretty serious claim. So what are they doing wrong?
All right, so investing is a little bit like a zero-sum game, right? Somebody wins, somebody loses. And every time money changes hands, there are costs. Trading fees, management expenses, and that eats into your returns.
So even if you're making money, you're losing some of it right off the bat.
Exactly. But there's like an even sneakier cost. Taxes. Specifically, taxes on actively managed funds.
Okay, explain that one to me.
So let's say you buy a mutual fund, right? And then like right after you buy it, the fund manager sells a stock that's gone up a lot.
Okay.
Well, that triggers a taxable event for you, the new investor.
Yeah.
Even though you didn't even benefit from that stock going up.
No, that's not fair.
It's not. And these costs, the fees, the taxes, they add up, especially over like years and years.
So over a lifetime of investing.
Yeah, you could be losing out on like a huge chunk of your retirement savings.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Hundreds of thousands, easy. And the book solution.
Tell me.
Index funds. Again. Because they don't trade as much.
Right.
They keep those costs down, and they generate fewer taxable events. There's even research that shows that just holding the market with an index fund beats most active managers over the long run.
So we're back to that simple approach. Buy and hold.
Buy and hold. Swensen, he even says that after you factor in fees and taxes, there's almost no chance that you end up beating the index fund.
Strong words.
Strong words. And the book, it gives this awesome analogy to really drive the point home. They compare the cost of an actively managed fund, which might charge like 3% in fees, to an index fund, which might charge 0.05%.
Big difference.
Huge difference, right? They say it's like comparing the price of a regular Starbucks latte to a latte that costs $249.
$249 for a latte. No, thank you.
Exactly. So you got to pay attention to those fees. They can really kill your returns. And then there's this whole myth of like the star fund manager, right?
Yeah, the one who consistently beats the market.
One who always picks the winners. But here's the thing, that consistent outperformance,
yeah,
it's usually an illusion. Funds that do really well one year, they often, fall back to average the next.
Reversion to the mean, right. We've talked about that.
Exactly. There's this Morningstar study. They found that out of 248 5-star rated funds.
5-star, the best of the best.
Supposedly, right. Only 4 of them kept that rating after 10 years.
Oh, wow. So it's like catching lightning in a bottle.
It is, yeah. And Bogle, he had this great analogy for it. He said it's like a room full of gorillas throwing darts at a board. One of them's going to hit the bullseye eventually. Doesn't mean they're a dart-throwing champion.
So a lot of it's just luck.
A lot of it is luck. And then there are those, like unicorns, right?
Unicorns in finance.
Yeah, the Warren Buffetts, the Ray Dalios of the world. They've consistently beat the market, but their funds are mostly closed.
Meaning?
You can't invest in them. And even Dalio, he's been quoted saying, flat out, you're not going to beat the market.
So what's the average investor to do?
Right. Well, the chapter then goes into 401k.
Ooh, retirement accounts.
Yeah. And the big issue here is fees. Historically, it's been really hard to figure out what you're actually paying in fees.
Because it's all buried in the fine print.
Exactly. And even with new laws, it's still kind of confusing. So you've got broker commissions, expensive mutual funds, all these hidden charges.
And it adds up.
It adds up big time. The book says that the average person could lose hundreds of thousands of dollars over their lifetime just from 401k fees. There are even some plans with upfront sales charges and huge annual fees.
You're losing money before you even start investing.
Basically. And Tony Robbins, he actually tells this story about how he discovered his own company's 401k plan had these crazy high fees.
Really?
Yeah. So even he got caught in this trap.
So this isn't just a problem for naive investors. This is widespread.
Widespread. And it's led to this epidemic of distrust in the financial industry.
Which is understandable. The book even has this whole section called The Hall of Shame.
Oh, yeah, the Hall of Shame. It lists all these huge settlements. We're talking billions of dollars.
Settlements for what?
All kinds of bad behavior. Banks like Bank of America, JP Morgan, Citigroup, Wells Fargo, they've all paid out billions.
Things like
with LIBOR rigging, creating fake accounts, all sorts of shady stuff.
So with all this going on, who can you trust? Should you even trust a financial advisor?
Right. That's the big question.
Yeah.
And the book, it does say that a good advisor can be really valuable. They can help you with investments, taxes, insurance, the whole picture.
Okay. So there is hope.
There is hope, but you got to find the right advisor. And they break down the different types.
Okay, break it down.
So you've got brokers. They operate under this suitability standard.
Suitability, meaning?
Meaning they just have to recommend something that's generally okay for you.
Okay.
Not necessarily the best thing. Then you have independent advisors. They have a fiduciary duty.
Which means?
Which means they're legally obligated to put your interests first.
Okay, that sounds better.
Right. And then there are duly registered advisors.
No, legally, so they're both.
They can be both a broker and a fiduciary.
Yeah.
Which is a huge conflict of interest.
Yeah, I can see how that would be a problem. So they recommend going with an independent advisor, a fiduciary.
Yes, but even then, you got to be careful.
Really? Why?
Because not all fiduciaries are created equal. They might still have hidden conflicts.
Like what?
Like getting kickbacks from certain companies or pushing their own products.
So what should we look for? What questions should we ask?
The book has this whole list of questions. What are their credentials? Do they offer holistic wealth management?
Okay.
Do they have their own financial plan?
Wait, so they're practicing what they preach?
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
And most importantly, what's their investment philosophy?
What do they actually believe about how to make money in the market?
Exactly. And if they say they can consistently beat the market,
yeah,
run the other way.
Red flag.
Huge red flag.
Okay, so lots to consider when choosing an advisor. Now, Chapter 4, this is where we get into some concrete strategies, right?
Yes, the core 4.
Yeah.
The simple playbook for financial freedom.
Okay, I love a good playbook.
This is it.
Yeah.
And it's 4 fundamental principles that the most successful investors use. And these aren't just suggestions. Robbins says you got to internalize them, make them your obsessions.
Make them your guiding principles.
Exactly. So, principle number 1, and this is so important, especially now, don't lose.
Don't lose. Simple but powerful.
Super powerful, especially right now with all this uncertainty.
Yeah. Everything's so volatile.
It is, right? And a lot of smart people are saying that, future returns might not be as high as they used to be.
Okay.
So avoiding big losses, that's got to be your top priority. And to give the example of Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
During the 2008 crash, he invested in Goldman Sachs.
A brave move.
Right. But he did it in a way that protected him from big losses. He got preferred stock with a guaranteed dividend.
So heads he wins, tails he doesn't lose.
Exactly. Robbins also tells this story about how he invested in trust deeds after the housing crash. The risk of losing money was super low, but the potential returns were really good. So the lesson for you, always consider the downside.
Before you even look at the upside.
Before the upside, what's the worst that can happen? Can you handle it?
Good advice. Okay, principle number 2, asymmetric risk-reward.
Okay, this is a fancy way of saying
Yeah.
Dumb it down for us.
Look for investments where the potential upside is way bigger than the potential downside.
Okay, I like that. More to gain, less to lose.
Exactly, like the trust deeds that Robbins was talking about.
Yeah.
Even if the housing market tanked again, he wasn't going to lose much. But if it went up, he could make a killing. So find those opportunities where the odds are in your favor.
Even if they're small opportunities.
Even if they're small. All right, principle number 3, tax efficiency.
Ooh, taxes. No one likes to think about those.
Nobody does. But Swenson, he says it best. Taxes matter. Taxes matter a lot.
Because
they eat into your returns. Big time.
Okay, so what's the solution?
Well, first of all, max out those tax-advantaged accounts. 401ks, Roth IRAs, traditional IRAs.
Okay, yeah, those are the classic.
The classics, right. And if you've got a little extra cash, look into things like 529 plans for your kids' education.
Good point. So we're talking about being strategic with our accounts.
Absolutely. And the book also says that you shouldn't rely on your broker for tax advice.
Because they're not tax professionals. Ideally, find an advisor who works with CPAs.
So, a team approach.
A team approach. Robbins, he always says, is that net? Meaning, focus on your returns after taxes.
After taxes, the money you actually get to keep.
The money you get to keep.
Yeah.
And they give this example of master limited partnerships, MLPs.
Okay.
They're often in, like, the energy sector.
Okay.
And they had this, like, tax advantage. And when the price of oil crashed, they held up pretty well.
Because
they had these long-term contracts.
So they were protected.
They were protected. So the lesson here, listener, is to always be thinking about taxes. What are your returns after taxes?
After taxes. Okay, principle number 4, this one's familiar, diversification.
Everyone talks about diversification.
Yeah, but why is it so important?
Okay, so imagine all your eggs in one basket, right?
Uh-oh.
And then that basket falls. Not good. Diversification is about spreading your money around.
Right.
So that if one investment tanks, you're not wiped out.
Makes sense. So we're not just talking about different stocks.
No, different asset classes.
Yeah.
Stocks, bonds, real estate, maybe some other stuff.
Okay. So a mix of things.
A mix of things. And the goal is to create a portfolio that can weather any storm.
So when the market does its crazy dance, you're ready.
You're ready. All right, so there you have it, the core 4.
The core 4. Don't lose. Asymmetric risk-reward. Tax efficiency. Diversification. I feel like I can conquer the world now.
You're well on your way. And speaking of conquering the world, Chapter 5 is all about preparing for battle. Ready to rumble. How to prepare for the inevitable correction.
Okay, so we've got our playbook. Now we're getting ready for the game.
Exactly. And they start off by talking about